Thank you for joining us wherever you are. This podcast episode is brought to you by the Old Ways Actual Play team. This actual play uses the 7th edition Call of Cthulhu tabletop role-playing game rules by Chaosium. This actual play is performed by adults and in an adult setting. While we try very hard to stick to language for all ages, listeners should know that this podcast may include mature themes. All content, including names, places, events, companies, and etc., that may bear resemblance to entities living or dead, is strictly coincidental. My name is Michael Diamond, and for tonight's game, I will be your keeper. Thank you for joining us again on another episode of the Old Ways Podcast. I'm your keeper, Keeper Michael, and we return to Masks of Nyarlathotep in our Kenya chapter. As we like to do at the top of the show, we'd like to thank you, the listener, and especially you, the Patreon supporter. If you do not have a chance to check out what we offer on Patreon, you can at patreon.com/theoldwayspodcast. We are skyrocketing towards our new subscriber goal, and so I would greatly appreciate it if you head over to YouTube and subscribe to us there for all of our live events, special music, and even future streams to come. So we're going to start in our investigator introductions now. To my right.
This is Tiffany, and I play Maeve O'Shea, and I have somebody to interrogate.
That sounds spicy. To Miss O'Shea's right.
This is Morgan. I play Lillian Lane, and I am going to go stalk somebody that isn't Jack Doyle.
I don't believe that. We are in the missing Jack Doyle formation, and so I will slide our introductions to his right.
This is Lonnie. I play Robert Drummond, and I am a nice person who will protect you from Maeve O'Shea. Maybe.
Right. I mean, maybe column A, column B. We'll figure it out in the end. To Mr. Drummond's right.
Hi, this is James, and I'll be playing Dr. Sigmund Tartenbach. And I have a small caged demon figgy that I brought home. It's my little friend.
Indeed, you did. And last but most certainly not least.
This is Alex playing Samboel, who is definitely not going to make Lillian an accomplice to premeditated murder again.
Yeah, we'll see how that works out for you. So what we're going to do at the start of the show is we're going to turn right back around to Miss O'Shea, and we're going to have Tiffany, who plays Miss O'Shea, roll luck.
37 out of 71.
37 in a row. Take 9 points of luck. Miss Lane, played by Morgan.
I got 60 out of 37.
Okay. So 2d10 for you, and that is going to be 19 points of luck.
Awesome.
And so, Mr. Drummond.
That's an extreme success. 5 under 50.
Oh, well, not what we were looking for, of course, on a luck refresh, but I'm still going to give you 8 points of luck.
It'll have to do.
Yeah, sadly. Doctor?
Alrighty. A success, 53 under 75.
Okay, so just a single d10. And that's 9 points of luck for you, sir.
I like that.
Fantabulous. And last but most certainly not least, Sam, played by Alex.
That is a 94 over 67.
94. Wow. That is 15 points of luck for you, sir.
I love it.
Now that our introductions and our luck refreshes are all set, we are going to raise our curtain for the night. And we're going to do so back in Nairobi, where the investigators returned to after their, we'll just say, eye-opening experiences with the Great Bundari. And they've returned back to Nairobi perhaps a bit more cautious, if that's even possible with these investigators, than they were when they left. And for you, Doctor, the small, scurrying form that you have very carefully sort of placed in perhaps in your doctor's bag, because it's too big to fit in your pocket. And you remember the words of wisdom handed to you as well when you were given such a creature, that you're to not let it out of the cage until the time is right.
Sketching it in the doctor's journal whilst we travel.
Okay. if there's one thing that you can say for certain about the creature, it's that it's unlike anything you've seen. It has a strange series of teeth that are vertical, not horizontal. It has what it looks like is one eye sort of on the top of its head where you think its forehead would be. It has two relatively muscular arms, given the size. But at the elbow, each of the arms split, and there are smaller arms that come out. And so it basically has two lower forearms on each side. And it's clear that it's probably not from around here. It's sleeping at the moment, curled up, all of its arms sort of stacked on top of one another to cover its eye.
Doc throws his handkerchief over top of the cage so that it can get some relative darkness in the way back.
Okay. Yeah, you get dropped back off in that wonderful automobile that gets parked into this shed where, no one would be the wiser of such a amazing vehicle. The tall man gets you your things, makes sure that you're prepared to go back out on the street, and offers you a bit of a local blessing in Swahili for fair weather, and may the winds here treat you warmly.
I wish him safe travels and thank him profusely whilst carrying my new, put the cage finally in the bag and close the bag as much as I can. And
okay. So there were a few threads yet to pull on. And so what I'd like to know collectively, starting to my right with you, Miss O'Shea, is what's on your list of things to accomplish now that you're back? You know a couple of things straight away from the meeting you've had. You know that there's a guide in town who's recommended, who might be able to take you where you need to go ultimately, which is great. But you have to decide if you or even the group at all is ready for something like that. But there are other threads here to pull on as well, yes?
Yeah, I think Robert and I are going to interrogate Reggie at the Hampton House. And it's also probably better that I'm not wandering around too much because I'm scary.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you could say that. And then I also know that there's some interest from Sam's direction at getting back to where the tea house is at and trying to put eyes on that place long term.
Absolutely. It's been suggested that we may want to turn the tables on our,
Tancour, yeah.
Our teabagging cultist.
Now, you did, just to bring yourself up and everybody else up to speed with the memory of the game itself, you did spend one evening all the way until the morning watching the place.
Yes.
So you do have some baked in time already, knowing a little bit about the location, etc.
All right. So for me, since I got to watch her arrive one morning, at this point I just don't know enough about her. So, and this is what I would say to the group as well. If we want to be able to get the drop on her, that means we need to know where they go. And there's no telling where they were coming from when they arrived at the shop, or whether they were coming from home or somewhere else, given the hour. And we definitely don't want to attack her on her home ground. That would be suicidal, since we know what she's capable of. So I'd like to go back to the tea house, the location that I staked out before, or find another, and continue to watch the place and monitor her comings and goings. I wish that we had an opportunity to get somebody in there to talk to her, but she knows who all of us are. So any conversation is likely going to end pretty bloody. So talking is out of the question.
On the train, you were dressed as somebody else, weren't you?
I was. And that's not to say that I am averse to the idea, but I can't be in two places at once. And if she does figure out who I am, well, we're not only going to lose out on potential for intelligence, we're fighting for our lives. I just don't know if it's worth the conversation with someone who we know is going to lie about everything. And I'm not looking to make a friend with her. We know what we know from Bundari. I don't know that there's anything that the tea house owner is going to reveal to me in conversation that's going to have any more value. I mean, it's not a bad idea. I just don't know what the hell we do with that conversation. But I do want to watch the tea house, and I don't feel it's necessary to go alone. So you're welcome to come with me, Lillian.
I've been meaning to work on my skills still.
We have plenty of time, and there'll be plenty of opportunities to not watch the door.
I'm as stealthy as a Bavarian brass band, so I will opt to perhaps not give away your cover over and over.
Doctor, what the hell is that thing?
I don't know. I suspect some sort of mutant chameleon, perhaps. He holds the cage up out of his bag to look closely at it. But going on what everything else we have seen up to this point, I would not even begin to venture a guess.
Bundari warned against letting it out.
Well, certainly he didn't mean just for like a few minutes, as a little walk, yeah? It should be fine, right? Doc grins, very carefully puts the cage.
I look at the cage. Does the cage look sturdy?
In a word, no. It's not metal.
I'm not going to say anything.
You know, it's made of. You know what it's made of, Sam? Sticks.
Sticks. It's made of sticks.
I was going to ask if you had poked it with a stick yet.
Do you know what keeps it shut? Hope and dreams.
Oh.
It is so aligned with the doctor. It's difficult to surmise if anything could be closer to him.
Yeah, I'm not going to touch the cage to rattle it to make a point. So I'm just gonna shut my mouth, and I'm gonna pat the doctor on the shoulder and say, Sigmund.
Yeah.
I'd call you a saint, but I don't know if that thing is from hell.
Well, even if it was, I think that would still qualify me for sainthood. But now is not the time for theology, my friend.
Now, the place where I'd staked out before, it was an empty shop, or it was an empty house?
You were in an alley standing in a bucket.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay. That's right. So there's plenty of places to lurk around there.
Okay. So the two of you are going to split off from the group and go back to the Asian Quarter to find a location. You would be fairly well aware, Sam, that not only is that a high traffic area,
mm-hmm.
If you're going to stake out a place for a longer period of time, you need to do better than just hanging out in an alley.
No, I understand that. I was going to consider my options as we went there, being at all familiar with that street or I need to find a place either elevated or nearby. So that I can, but I need to be able to I need line of sight. So whether or not I can find an elevated position where we can hunker down, if it's, if there are available rooftops. We love climbing.
I know that Lillian loves climbing.
I do. I really, was it my 20 climbing? My 20 and climb? Yep.
So we've got to work on that. So, okay, lesson time. It's time to learn.
Time to learn to climb.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. For our adventure this evening, we are going in evening time, correct? Or towards the evening?
Well, no. So we'll probably go in the middle of the day to blend in with traffic, find our spot, hunker down, and then watch the shop until evening because we haven't seen the shop close yet. And we need to know whether or not whether she's going to stay there, whether she's going to leave, whether she's going to leave, whether maybe there's weird stuff that goes on. Like we haven't seen that area of the day yet. And I'm assuming that during the day, she's probably selling tea, at least based on the line.
It's, it's a fair assumption.
Maybe they take a lunch. Like, I don't know.
They take tea.
Yeah, maybe they have tea time, I imagine, frequently.
For this adventure, then I will go and change into something more appropriate that will allow me to blend with the crowd a little more.
Okay.
I'd wear like a head covering, and,
Good
kind of
start.
cover up my hair. It'll be in colors to match what everybody else is wearing,
Right.
like bright colors.
I will continue to aid in her head covering until I can see nothing but her eyes.
Yep, I show him the dresses and outfits that I have brought, waiting for him to pick one.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say that you can get into clothes that are more local than like what Lillian would have with like either French or European styling, which is probably most of what her clothes normally are, because she's a little, we'll just say, highfalutin. And it's your wardrobe, you realize, has basically two avenues. You were either prepared for something in the professional philanthropy field where you have to look the part, or you have boots and pants and stuff that's ruggedized to get dirty in and probably shoot people in. So you're suddenly realizing you live two lives.
There's two of me. There's a good wolf and a bad. It would be, yeah. So the dress itself would probably be a cotton dress that's made with, that's like yellows and greens and reds, along with the shawl that I wear to cover my hair.
Mm-hmm. If Lillian is relatively small in stature, then I guess we can get creative. And how would you feel about going out into public as a man? A small man?
Well, I do already enjoy wearing pants and boots, so I don't think this would be a big difference.
Okay, this will be fun. Yeah, I will. I'll find things around the room that I can use to create any sort of, binding garment I need to. And then I will find a couple of layers, including like a vest or jacket, things that basically line up shoulder to floor, and a nice hat. And I will reverse makeup her so as to make her a bit more grimy and apply a delicate 5 o'clock shadow to accentuate her jaw.
Here, look, work on this Lewis gun for a few hours.
Grease her up a bit. Yeah, I'm going to have fun with it. It'll be a good time.
Did you give me a hat or anything?
Yeah, you get a hat. You got to put your hair in something.
Well, yeah, so I pinned my hair up. I am going to... Do we know where Jack is at this point?
Jack has retired to his room. He's very tired.
Yeah, I will, if he's passed out, I will go steal his fedora from his room.
I love that. I love that. Okay, so you snatch a fedora, and with the assistance of, your friend Sam, you suddenly look a little bit more. Actually, make me a disguise roll, because
I would love to.
I'm going to put you at a hard difficulty for this, because you're attempting to essentially, in effect, change gender, visual gender cues.
So that's a 33 under 89, so that's definitely a hard success.
Oh, good.
Right? Yeah. But I will walk her through it. Like, I'll definitely step her through what I'm doing for tutelage purposes,
Sounds fantastic.
I think you look amazing.
Now that you're back at Hampton House, Miss O'Shea, you had spoke that perhaps you and Mr. Drummond were going to have a little discussion with Reggie that may or may not be the friendly type.
One of us will probably sound friendly. Maybe.
Okay. Is one of you going to sound like an attack helicopter, or?
Maybe.
I assume that you'll want to do some planning first.
I don't know. Well, yeah. I mean, I figured we're going to talk about what we want to ask, what information we want to find. You're the one who was like, I know he knows something. So what are we trying to pry out of him?
I mean, since I don't know what he knows, I'd like to pry everything out of him. I'd like him to sing like a canary.
Okay. Well, if you're specific, sometimes I can, persuade people to give up information.
What does he know about the cult? what's his connection to the cult, if he has any?
He's probably a part of it. That's my assumption, but okay.
I guess my other question would be, would Carlisle coming back be anything the cult would be concerned about?
Oh, I'm not. Here's the thing: is I don't want to tip their hand about Roger. I mean, it's something they're concerned with, but Roger's like firmly under their thumb. Like, he only gets so much free will. So.
Well, I can't claim to understand completely what you're talking about, but I don't know enough.
He's essentially being partially possessed. His will is not his own. Sometimes he can will himself to break free from the grasp that the Black Pharaoh has on him, but that's it.
So how much of a danger to them would it be if he broke at the wrong moment, I guess is my question.
Well, that's what he's going to try and do. I mean, he's going to try and do what he can, which isn't much. He's not reliable. And if anything, he would be a detriment to us as well. He's kind of a loose cannon at this point.
So maybe we try to connect the other threads up, like connect the lady at the tea shop, or...
Well, I mean, I don't think it would hurt to see if Reggie knows that person or knows anything besides the front of the tea shop.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we could ask about that first, because if he knows more about that, that would mean that he is in some way either being threatened or is a part of the cult.
Okay, why don't we play it like this? You know more than I do, so why don't you do the questioning and I'll do the basically trying to get on his good side.
Okay. I mean, you're better at being polite than me.
Okay.
That's what you wanted to know? Like what he knows as far as what's actually going on?
Well, I mean, we got ambushed literally the moment we got on the train here.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to have some advance notice myself of anyone who could be potentially targeting us. Because it's easier to take care of a threat if you take care of it before they become a threat.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't have all the connections that you have of the entire story. There's no possible way you could have told me everything that you know.
No. Because we know that basically the lady at the tea house is the one that's their big caster that's around here that's probably calling shots. Because that's the person, basically we were told that's the person that we saw on the train, correct? Isn't that what we were told?
That's what Sam identified.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I guess my question is from what little I know of it and seeing how you operate, she can't be everywhere at once and doing everything at once. It doesn't work that way.
Sure.
So if there's anybody else out there who could potentially set us all on fire, I'd really like to know that.
Well, from my experience with the other cities that we've been in, there's usually somebody that's calling all the shots, a caster that you usually have to worry about. Other people know smaller things or may have an amulet that does something or whatever, but it's usually just a bunch of just followers that are skilled at killing people or ambushing people. And so a lot of times what gets us is numbers. And because you can't always identify them, they can see where we're going all the time. Then they report back, and that's usually where we get ambushed.
Well, I'm open to suggestions on where you'd like to take this, because what limited knowledge I have and what questions I have don't appear to mean much to what you're talking about.
Doc is, by the way, just kind of leaning against feeding the little bits of grass and such to the creature and listening to you two palaver.
I just think we have a different maybe approach to things. I mean, I don't know how to help you here because we've been through a lot, and I try and keep you informed, but then sometimes we don't have time. I mean, what we could do is sit at the bar, pretend to have some drinks, and watch him get progressively more drunk and see if he slips and wants to talk more.
Well, you said they know that Carlisle's back, right?
Well, the Black Pharaoh knows, and I think that's the only one that really needs to know that would be scary enough, but yes. I would assume the rest of them know.
What do you think? How do you think Reggie would react if he found that out?
What, that Roger was back?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, that's, once again, it depends if he's involved in the cult or not. Or if he reports to them, or... Because, he could easily be, paying them for protection, too. That's happened a number of times.
Well, like I said, I'll let you make the opening inquiries and just kind of go from there.
Okay.
I'll follow your lead.
All right. So the group splits at this point, at least a little bit, with Jack deciding to medicate after some of the things that he saw. And we'll just say the recon team is being deployed in its own sort of specific way. We will ask the ultimate question, which is, since the doctor is not going out, since he is as quiet as a Bavarian horn section, what is his plan?
Actually, Doc does have kind of a plan. Now that he's back at his home base here and both groups are going to go do their thing, he is, Doc's thinking maybe he might do his own sort of recon. And, well, at least if nothing else, he's going to take a nice nap because he could definitely use the MP. As right now he's an empty can. So he's going to get himself some rest. Him and the creature lock the door so that no one sneaks in the room. And he's going to take himself a nice nap.
Yeah, okay. That seems reasonable. It's been quite the past day or so for most of you. So downstairs at the bar, Miss O'Shea and Mr. Drummond get settled in to have a drink and to relax. And as always, at least it seems, proprietor Reggie Baines is not far. And upon finding he has two, rather exclusive guests, one who did some singing for this very bar not but a few nights ago, he finds a way to slowly waddle his way down the bar towards you, port in hand, engaging in all sorts of attempts to entice and ingratiate himself to you. But he does eventually arrive at your section of the bar. He looks at you, Robert, and says, So, what can I get you and the wonderful lady here?
I gesture to Maeve and say, I'll let the lady order first.
I will have a glass of wine, whatever you suggest is the best.
Oh, we have many different vintages here of wine. Perhaps, given the time of day, perhaps a white. It's not necessarily time for red just yet.
Sounds good.
And you, sir?
How about some whiskey? Just some good whiskey.
Yes, of course. A favorite of many of the guests here at the Hampton House, whiskey. He reaches up with some stubby fingers and grabs a bottle off of a middle shelf and pours you a few fingers of whiskey and sets it onto the bar, and then pours you a bottle of wine after two things are thoroughly checked. One is the bottle and the year on it, and seeing how much more port he can drink before he pours you a glass. Once done, he presents your wine to you and eases, I think this is the best way to say it, he eases his body against the bar to sort of lean over towards this guy. It's not in an intrusive manner, but to seem friendly and to seem ingratiating. Now, can I ask a question of the two of you?
Sure.
You have been now in this city for a few days. What is the most interesting thing you have seen?
Well, we've been to a lot of places.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know. It's hard to say.
He turns to you, Robert. You, sir. What have you found that is the most interesting thing so far?
I'd say the people.
You know, the people of Nairobi have kept me coming back down these stairs so many years. Because they're all very different. Very different. They want different things. They see different things as important. It's my understanding that from Mr. Doyle that you were going to meet with Kenyatta, yes?
I did not.
Oh, well, he looks a little surprised.
I believe the rest of them did, but I was not there.
A capital move on your part. Unfortunately, he just spreads his arms out wide, and you can see the lightest, just the briefest amount of perspiration on the top of his forehead. He's a bit of a troublemaker. I hate to put it like that, but everything that has been built here has been built for a reason, to the benefit of the people that live here. And all he wants to do is rip all that up. And it's not that I have not had conversations with him. I have had conversations on top of conversations. And as a pillar of the community, which the Hampton House is, it's important that we have the right people leading what's happening here in Nairobi.
Right, you're talking about the people that didn't originally lived here. It's all the people that have moved here and built these buildings.
Okay, I will give you that we are newcomers to this territory, but we are far from the first people to have ever migrated anywhere.
Sure, but do you understand that since he's been here, that's what he has an issue with? He thinks that the people that were here first should have say?
I'm not deaf.
Well,
But the infrastructure that Nairobi benefits from has been built by someone else that isn't him. The industries that his people benefit from were not built by him or them. They were built by His Majesty's empire. And that has done a good lot of benefit for everyone here.
everybody has an opinion.
That is absolutely true. He takes another drink.
So we were told that there is an excellent tea shop in town.
Well, there are several tea shops in town. Tea is very popular here, especially with the Indian and Asian communities.
Sure. Particularly one that is really popular on Bishara Street.
Oh, yes. Tankur's shop, certainly very popular with many people here. We sell some of her teas here.
Okay. Well, then I wouldn't have to go that far then.
Oh, no, not at all. I mean, if you'd like, I could prepare some water now. Have the staff prepare some water for tea.
Sounds good.
He calls out to a busboy who's just trying to clear tables in the restaurants and asks for hot water. And be quick about it, you hear him say. He reaches down and pulls out he seems to lean and pull out this half open bottle of port and pours more in his glass.
So you worked out something with her then just to sell her teas here, or do you sell anybody else's?
Oh, there's no agreement per se. We're not business partners in that respect.
Oh.
She came to me years ago and asked if the Hampton House would like the ability to sell her tea here in small amounts. And I didn't seem to have a problem with it. We have a lot of English teas here as well. But the people here come for the experience. And they want to be able to get their tea how they want it, the types that they want, and that comfortable booth over there, he points onto the the dining room floor. And they don't want to have to walk all the way over to Bashara Street and deal with the Asian quarter. They want to have it here. And so I accommodate. He sort of seems to smile very proudly.
Sounds like a smart business move.
Well, it's not like Nairobi is the lap of luxury of all things. You have to make do with what you have.
I'm a bit curious.
Just a bit.
Yes, just a bit. You say Kenyatta's a troublemaker, but I haven't really seen any trouble in town.
I haven't been here long enough.
So what sorts of trouble do we get up to around here?
We are familiar with workers' strikes, yes, I assume?
Yes.
Do you know what it's like when the industry in the city shuts down for weeks or months?
Yes, I do.
You've experienced that on a large scale? A large city, perhaps, sir?
Well, I can say that when I was in Shanghai toward the end of my time there was quite the uproar.
Right.
Shall we say.
Now, understand that Nairobi is perhaps a few thousand by comparison. When an industry shuts down, it can cripple the city and cripple trade. And staged walkouts are all sorts of wonderful press for the paper when their building isn't burning. But it's bad for all the other businesses.
What industry was shut down?
Rail. They've staged walkouts, strikes. They want certain things. They want political power. And if they're willing to shut the whole city down to get it, what kind of people are they? They have to be educated and come to understand what it means to legislate and administrate. And so now they wear fancy suits.
Oh, I mean, it's human nature for people to want things and to be part of things and to have some kind of voice or control over their decisions in life, right?
No, absolutely. And I've got no issue with them having a voice amongst the community. I just don't think that they should use their voice to be, outside of the ground that they're supposed to be playing in.
Well, I guess one more question for you. When the Carlisle expedition came through, they stayed here.
They did.
You say they didn't talk to you too much, but surely you knew something. I mean, you're a well-connected man with lots of interests in town, right?
Right.
That'd be fair.
And they kept mostly to the Asian quarter, and they kept company with some of the other locals here. They weren't very much interested in spending long-term time here. I did have to fetch them a doctor, Dr. Starrett, twice, because of some concerns some of their party had.
Yes, Miss Masters was ill, I believe, was what was said.
Well, he smirks. Ill. That's one way to put it. The other way would be to say that she was having she was going through some things. I believe that she was pregnant. Just by the look of her. I tried to hide it. I keep remembering that the time that this Carlisle fellow came in, and all he could do to keep her behind something that was half wall or higher. He loved shielding her. He'd stand in front of her or to the side, just so that way she didn't look straight on at anyone.
Well, you don't suppose it was his child, do you?
I've no idea whose child it was.
That would have been fairly shocking.
It would be prying even to suggest to ask such a thing, from my perspective. But if I were to gamble on it, I'd say 60-40. Not that it means anything anyway, because they're all dead, sadly.
Are they?
As far as I'm aware.
What if they're not?
His brow furrows. What do you mean, what if they're not?
I mean that there's not much anybody can say about anything as far as actually having recovered the bodies.
No, but the remains were recovered. There was an entire report about it.
The report, yes. I've talked to the person involved in the report, actually.
Yes?
They never saw the bodies. So I'd love to know how they wrote that report.
He seems to lean in a little more. Enough for you to smell the port that comes across the mahogany. If they were alive, there would need to be proof. Do you have proof?
What if I did?
We're asking a lot of what-if questions. He looks between the two of you. I'm going to ask you to make a charm roll, because you're not fast-talking him. This has been played out. And so now he's going to make a psychology roll against you to see if you actually have something, if you're actually telling the truth. I know you're couching this in the what-if scenario, but Reggie wants to know if you're serious about this or not. So that's contested, of course.
Well, I failed my charm roll, so...
Okay, so I'm going to
82 over 50, yeah.
Okay, so I have passed my psychology roll.
Mm-hmm.
So what I want to know is, you're going to have to pick a path here. Either you're going to reveal that you know something more about the reality of the Carlisle situation, or you're going to end up revealing something worse, like that you have a vested interest in the situation.
So do you know why I came here from Shanghai?
No, I don't.
Well, my editor at the China Independent found a man who had worked on the Carlisle expedition who claimed that he checked Roger Carlyle into an asylum in Hong Kong.
His eyes get really big. What? How is that even possible?
That is a wonderful question, sir. And one that nobody seems to be able to answer here in Africa.
His eyes move between you and Miss O'Shea. Why are you here?
What do you mean, why are we here?
I think it's a pretty straightforward question. Why are you here?
I'm covering a story. You even have my business card.
I do. Do you work for the paper too?
Oh, no, I'm a traveling singer. Miss Lane covers all my expenses so that I can travel.
And you're not mixed up in this Carlisle business?
I've heard things because I have been traveling with him as well, but they went digging in the sand and disappeared.
Evidently not, and he points over at Robert.
I mean, how many times has the papers come up with... So I was in London, and there was this talk of these monsters that lived in the underground that supposedly would come out at night and steal children and eat them.
I've heard stories like that before.
I'm just saying, I mean, some of these newspaper folk.
He scratches his head.
So we're talking, because from what he's saying, so there's one person that claims to have seen him and then checked him in Hong Kong. But then if you go check out the asylum, which I'm assuming you did, Robert? Or what did the asylum say?
I did not personally check out the asylum, but I don't think that my editor would have sent me here if there was nothing to look at. And ever since I've got here, all I've gotten is a runaround. Oh, there's bodies? Of course there were bodies. No, we don't have any bodies. No, we wrote a whole report on bodies. There's no bodies.
It's very interesting.
Yes.
Now I'm just invested to find out what happens.
Reggie slowly nods and puts the port bottle back underneath the bar and sort of does something you have not seen him do yet, which is set his glass down. It's empty. I'm going to go check on that water. And he steps away and then eventually out from behind the bar and towards the kitchen. Moving to the Asian Quarter, Sam, you and Lillian take we'll just say special route. One that gives you a opportunity to see the flow of traffic. One that gives you an opportunity to scout for higher buildings. And And on the latter point, you come up a little bit short, especially in the story area. There are a couple of taller buildings, but only by maybe a story or two. And those are likely multifamily buildings.
So I had a thought. And with a second set of eyes, I feel like we can take a bit of a broader approach anyway. Assuming that Lillian doesn't pull out a shotgun and start blasting cultists in half in the middle of the street.
Never know.
Before it's time to do that. So I'll walk the area with Lillian and walk her through kind of my process of deciding on sightlines. And my plan is to, since I know that it's like a busy thoroughfare, I think it would be to our benefit to move locations throughout the day so as not to like rouse suspicion. So the first pass we do, I'll identify whether there's places that are easy to hide in or easy to loiter or shop, or maybe like there's a cafe. Mm-hmm. And I'll write down, kind of like a circuit of places where we can linger for a time, as long as we can maintain either sight of the shop or sight of each other. Is there only one entrance to the shop?
Yeah, so I'll give you a brief. I will give you a debrief. That comes later. So the Bashar Street location has, from what you can see, one entrance.
Okay.
It does appear that there is a side door in the alley.
Okay.
So there is an alley that is maybe a yard wide. Maybe.
But I hadn't seen anybody use that door.
You have not.
Okay.
Also, I want the both of you to give me a spot hidden roll.
Sure.
Before, as you are doing this, there's some environmental stuff you're going to see.
I got a 100 out of 88.
Did you now?
I did.
I'm going to spend a hand of fate, and I'm going to remove that fumble.
Wow.
Whew, thank you. Thank you, Patreon.
I got a 49 under 85.
Awesome. So you pick up on what is being laid down there, Sam, and that is that there is a noticeably larger influx of people moving around. Like, if let's say in a 3x3 block radius, normally in a marketplace area, there's, let's say, 40 people, give or take.
Mm-hmm.
When you get into the Asian Quarter, there's probably 80.
Wow. Okay.
And at least 2/3 of them are wearing these very strange, like white and red robes.
Not to be confused with the wraps that I saw the other people wearing.
No, not to be confused. Although the red is the same color.
So does it look like the boost in population is just these people?
Yeah, mostly.
So I will point this out to Lillian. I will say, well, this place is normally pretty busy, but this is busier than I've seen it. And I also don't know who these people are. I won't point. I'll just kind of, nod in their direction as we pass a group of them. I'm not sure who they are, what they're doing here.
I try to make my voice appear a little bit more masculine and lower it. Who do you think they are?
Sam does his best to not lose his shit in the middle of the street.
Oh yeah, and as far as like picking that up, it's clear that Lillian misses that completely.
The red matches the red that the cultists use, but I don't know that necessarily means anything. But I'm not inclined to ask these people what they're doing here. There's some things that we need to make sure that we know. We want to see how many of these cultists we can see moving through here. As I saw a number of them coming and going in the shop. We need to know whether or not Tonkor leaves, when they leave, and then ideally we will follow her to wherever she's going and try to get an understanding as to how far it is and what the route is, in case we want to set up, an ambush or need to run. But for now, we need to try to, put together the puzzle, as it were. And it's kind of difficult to watch someone that knows that they have a reason to be watched.
So you're setting up basically a rotating, not patrol, but yeah, like a leapfrog thing.
Well, it is leapfrog. I don't think the technique was coined yet, but I'll be an early adopter.
Yeah.
We'll find places to, hide, loiter, shop, and, sip cafe or tea.
Yeah, and I'll try to mimic Sam's movements, obviously, not as well as he can, but, try to mimic those masculine movements that he might have. I won't stop and stare at the dresses if we're, outside a shop or anything.
You can stop and stare at the ladies. That's very manly in Novera, but
It's true. I will stand against the wall and lean and stare at them.
You should have grabbed Jack's cigarettes.
yeah.
It's okay. I'm going to buy Lillian a pack of cigarettes
Yeah.
so that she can lean on a wall and smoke them.
She's definitely very effective, just visually speaking. A lot of the, we'll just say Caucasian men that are here are not big, burly men. Most of them are more, we'll just say British European men. And so maybe some French too. So they're not your traditional Yukon Jack. They're not something out of a pulp novel.
Yukon jacked.
Right. Basically.
They don't have Robert's glistening pecs.
And really, who does?
It's good to have goals. But yeah, so I set up the rotation with Lillian. And, as we do our drive-bys, I'll show her my notes so that she understands what kind of notes I'm taking as far as identifying people that are coming and going.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm keeping as complete a log as I can of the customer base. But I'm specifically keeping an eye out for the cultist types.
Yeah.
And if I see them, then I will definitely point them out to Lillian so that she knows how to identify them.
Okay.
And then I guess the plan for me is I plan on staying here through the night. But what are we going to make here? What is your man name? Jake. Jake will go back to the hotel and relay our information to the team. I'll stay until morning and then I'll meet them, assuming that nothing else happens. There is that one curveball we could choose to throw if we got, impatient. And there's always the option of going in once she leaves. But at that point, we do risk kind of giving up the game if she finds out that we were in there before we're ready to take her down. So keep that in mind before you go knocking on the door.
So to round out this, we'll just say beginning stage of this day, Sigmund, in your room, you are relaxing, trying to get connected, perhaps with the energy around you, perhaps with the new energy of a newfound friend. So walk us through what that is like for you.
Sigmund puts on, of course, soft music, to help him maybe imbibes just a little things to slow his consciousness a little bit. Nothing he's not getting blitzed drunk or, plowed on opium or anything, but maybe just a little bit of that hash he had left over from a couple of weeks ago, and enough to help him induce a extremely restful and tranquil state. And he's going to keep the little creature nearby, and as he drifts down, he may take a little while just to try to recharge before he attempts to do anything like research or, look at the creature or try to travel in the dreamlands or anything. So it's kind of an iffy whether or not he manages it or just passes the crap out. So
yeah, I think it's reasonable. So why don't we have the doctor make us a power roll?
I totally can do that. Hey, 19 under 65, a hard success.
Absolutely. So with a little bit of the hash and the pulse and rhythm of the streets outside not necessarily being so evident, but almost acting as a background pulse to the everyday life, you find it fairly simple to access that portion of you which can exist outside of your form. And you slip out of your body and into the room. And you are immediately stunned by what you see. Inside your room, there is something standing on the floor. It is enormous. It stretches outside of the normal geometric space of the roof. And the thing that is standing there, that thing that is dominating the room, are two wide and muscularly powerful legs.
Do they look like giant versions of the tiny little ones in the cage?
They do.
Okay. Doc will will himself upward and through the roof towards the face consciousness of whatever he knows this thing to be shaped like. So he goes roughly that area, and acknowledging the irony of suddenly being the one that's all tiny and to be fed crickets.
You see this being standing above the top of the Hampton House roof, and it just sort of is tilting its head back and forth. Its horns are sort of moving left to right as it examines the space. It seems to be interested in Nairobi, at least puzzled by it, curious enough, but it hasn't seemed to move like off the spot that it's standing in. And when it stands in the space, it's not standing at all where the cage is exactly. It's sort of as if its spirit doesn't sit inside the cage. It's just standing outside of it.
Bound to the very local area, sort of a... it was so small, I can understand. I try to present... Doc tries to present himself to it as in, a bow in air, as clumsy as that might look, and...
You flip over.
Yeah. Hang on. Greetings.
It looks down at you, and out of its vertical mouth, a very long, like blue tongue extends down, and it doesn't lick you, but it gets real close to doing so. And it seems to pull the tongue back into its mouth relatively quickly, and then the teeth come together 2 or 3 times, and they sort of clatter back and forth. It almost sounds like someone's playing maracas when its teeth hit back and forth. And then its eye stares down at you.
Doc looks up. I was simply curious as to what you would look like here, and you are magnificent. I have been told not to release you from your earthly binding, I am assuming, until it's time. But just so you know, I've never been a fan of keeping anything bound in this world, so I do that part grudgingly to let you know. Well, otherwise, it is very nice to meet you.
It doesn't really talk. The eye blinks, but you get an acknowledgement from this creature that you were not really prepared for. I mean, it's basically 12 feet tall.
Okay.
Maybe 15. Hard to tell size here because it's, of course, not physical reality.
Right. Well, when it goes back to surveying the city with interest, maybe I give the tea house a quick once over while I'm here. I'd like to, there are ways to check it out that they don't have eyes for, so I might as well use them.
That's very true. I think that's an excellent idea, and I think we'll pick it up next time. So thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Masks of Nyarlathotep. We greatly appreciate your listening ears. Thank you, and good night.